Joe Biden, or whatever's left of him, breaking his silence on the auto pen scandal. The big guy telling the New York Times that he orally approved all those last-minute pardons. There's an image. And said, quote, "I made every single one of those." But the Times immediately undercuts that claim, saying, quote, "Mr. Biden did not individually approve each name for the categorical pardons." The Gray Lady also reports that big clemency decisions, like ones for Dr. Fauci, were actually signed off by Biden's chief of staff for final approval. Amazing. Worse, at 10:28 p.m., right in the middle of Gutfeld. Meanwhile, President Trump guarantees Joe didn't know what was going on. This is insane.
I guarantee you he knew nothing about what he was signing. I guarantee it. You know what the auto pen is supposed to do? Sign thousands of letters from young people that write. That's what an auto pen's supposed to be. To write to a young 7-year-old boy that writes to the president and he wants to be president someday and he loves America. That's what the auto pen's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be for signing major legislation and all the things. I doubt they even spoke to him about it. I think they had, it's called a freewheeling auto pen.
You know, Dana, this is why some Democrats, not Harold, but some keep saying, oh, we have to move on. We have to keep moving. You can't move on from this.
They want to move on.org.
They want to move on. Yeah, you're going to move on to jail. How is it? Basically, he was not president. They were taking advantage of him. And how can this stuff still stand up? They have to undo all of these things.
Okay, so I had one foot in the MoveOn.org camp because I was like, oh, there's so many problems in America. We got to move on. And then I listened to a lot of friends and read a lot of things. And then the Commentary Magazine podcast today convinced me.
Oh, wow, good for them.
Yes, isn't that
so
great?
what was I doing?
I sat next to you.
I know,
like,
yeah. Oh, no, I have to get it from a podcast.
On this issue, because I didn't know a couple of things.
So they were unpersuasive.
I didn't realize that the only one that he personally signed was Hunter's.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't realize
I said that on the show if you listened.
Off that day, Dana.
Probably. Yeah, that's when all the big news happens.
You're probably running with your dog on the beach.
I didn't know that the New York Times only got 10 minutes with him. It's the first interview he's done with the New York Times. He didn't do a single interview with the New York Times when he was president, which seems a little bit unbelievable. But I have said this, that I think the most important person to hear from and to testify is Zients. He was the chief of staff. So apparently he was the one who was the recipient of the oral order. And then it appears by reading the article that he might have then said, and add these people too, because they're in the category that the president just announced. And I think the pardon power, one, it's supreme. It is amazing. It is extremely powerful. This seems to be very dangerous to play fast and loose with it. And just imagine if it was Trump that had done it.
Yeah, but it's still okay, Harold. You're the lawyer here. I have no proof of that.
He's a lawyer also.
What can be done? Okay, so Dana explains this is a very special power, but the Democrats have abused it. They've corrupted it. Yeah. And so are we supposed to say, oh, well, that was bad. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again. No, you don't do that with crime. You punish the crime.
So are you asking because the auto pen or the actual...
We need to negate...
You don't like the pardon authority.
Yes, we got to negate everything that Biden was not aware of. We need to find out the exact time he lost his mind, which could be in 1999. Who knows?
So I think part of what you're saying is that, the pardon power is something that bothers you too, because President Trump also said there that any 8-year-old that's writing the White House that says, I want to be president, and you get a message from the president, he did not sign that letter. That's an auto pen, as he said. Look, I don't agree with some of the things that President Biden did, but if he didn't publicly in that article, and I would think most amazing, Dana said it's the only interview he gave to the New York Times in the last 5 years, 4.5 years, was to set the record straight on this matter. If President Biden had said during that interview that there were pardons that I did not approve, and I don't know how they were signed, that'd be one thing. And I think your issue, what you're saying
there. He said that with one bill. Remember where the guy, what's his name, asked him?
He didn't even know about the gas exports that were frozen, that he froze.
Yes.
Well, if he signed it, but if he didn't sign something and didn't want it signed, he should say, look, that was the case.
He wasn't capable or
But he also said,
to sign.
I read the piece. He said, look, I developed the standards. I'm not saying I would have done it this way. I think the pardon authority is the most powerful authority the president has. Because when he or she signs it, and one day say she, You can't dispute it. So he could have said, hey, they did things that I didn't want them to do. He didn't say that.
Harold,
With the
does
pre- listen,
anybody
but for President
believe,
Trump-
hold on, Harold, does anybody believe Biden created the standards? That Joe Biden created the standards and the criteria for his pardons?
No, for him, of course.
Come
he
on,
did.
of course. Okay, let me ask you a question then. Let me
Justin,
ask
we
you a
have to
question. This
take him
guy
at
got
his
pardoned,
word.
Michael Conaron,
We have to take
Kids
him at
for
his word.
Cash judge. He sat there with a gavel, guilty. Guilty. And
not
every
guilty.
time a kid went to jail, he got a cash kickback. What was the standard and criteria that Joe Biden created that allowed that guy to get clemency?
You know what? It's the power of the president. I agree.
Okay, well, that's
but listen,
different. That's different than him saying he was involved in the creating the standards
It
for
is.
these
Just like
pardons.
when President Trump pardoned everybody on January 6th, he had his own standard for that. I respect that. I disagree with
then
it.
what
But that
was
was
he
his
knew what he was
standard.
doing? Okay, then
He
what
knew what
was
he was
this
doing.
But
then?
that's it. But we're not talking.
Harold,
we're
let me ask you another question
I'm
because
not
the
a
New York
prejudiced.
Times didn't. The New York Times said, well, what was the criteria? What was the standard? For instance, this guy, Joe Biden, pardoned a Soviet couple who then kidnapped 5 people for ransom
then you know what
and
we
then
should do?
murdered them, including a pregnant
President
woman.
Trump
and
you
Joe
and this-
Biden said, you know what?
You
They
oughta-
meet my
you oughta
standards
help
and
lead-
criteria.
You ought to help lead the effort.
That's crazy.
To reform the pardon
All right,
authority.
so everything they've
because
said
every
has been a
president
lie.
has the right to
All
do
right,
it.
the border's been a lie. The health has been a lie.
I'm giving
All right.
15
And you
seconds. I give
believe
15
this?
seconds. I give President Trump the benefit of the doubt today when he says, you know what? Putin's been playing me. I said I was going to end this
Okay.
war on day one. Wait a sec. He reversed. But but time out.
Harold,
He can't
we're going off track
But he
now.
can't take a minute of my
Harold,
time.
Go to your room.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to pardon you. Look, I'm going to auto-pin you off the show, guys.
Emily, last word to you. Use plenty of words. Make them really fast.
So apparently how it went, this is the commander-in-chief. This is the one person in the entire country that has this power. He orally told people in a meeting, who then orally related it to AIDS, who then emailed it out. And yes, he says he directed categories for clemency, everyone. Your Kids for Cash judge, the mother of one of the kids, who then killed himself because everything was so deplorable. She said he destroyed families, including mine. And one of those kids, too, said, we had no opportunity to have any time. No one, she said, cared. No one said anything. We had no one to talk to. And now we're talking about the president? The volume, the impact that the horrible people here, that this president, without knowing at
didn't
all,
know.
granted clemency and commutations for is despicable, including, here's the thing, the categories, they framed it as, well, it's the nonviolent one. So that includes, for example, the Black Widow, where the insurance fraud she was convicted of got her a sentence of 40 years because it wasn't the 3 murders that she was also on the hook for. So he released a triplicate murderess because it was on the books, just insurance fraud. Because that's what happens when you do things with a blanket swath. And here's the thing, guys, this is the biggest problem about the auto pen and the oral and everything like that, is that in real life, in law, this is like case law. Cases have been decided, including at the Supreme Court level. Oral orders are unenforceable. So if a judge issues an order, that whole case is vacated, the whole ruling. Stamped signatures is not a valid signature. It is totally unenforceable. It is vacated. You must be present and authorized. The judge, it means you can't just say, oh yeah, the judge told me to.
Right.
Unsigned orders are non-final. So if this is the law for everyday matters that, yes, has an impact on Americans and makes their way to the Supreme Court, how in the heck is this acceptable for, again, this sacred and crucial
It's in the
decision-making
Constitution.
power?
That's how.
No, I'm saying how this is acceptable as like everything we just said. How is it acceptable that he wasn't present, that he totally was vacant in the mind, and yet allegedly orally
This
told
is a-
X, who told Y, who told
We could go on
It's in the
forever.
Constitution. That's why.
unacceptable and
That's
totally
not
legal.
a good
It is
answer, Harold.
unenforceable.
I'm sorry.
Unenforceable.
All right, we must move on. .org. Up next, Trump threatens to nuke Rosie's citizenship.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.